3 years of searching, and investigators finally found the body of the woman who went missing on Mother's Day 2020.
It was an unrelated investigation that finally led deputies to Suzanne Morphew's body in Saguache County. Tonight, a source familiar with the investigation told 9 News they discovered skeletal remains and identified Suzanne based on dental records and her cancer report. She disappeared from her home in Salida in 2020. Prosecutors eventually arrested her husband, Barry Morphew, charged him with murder. They dropped those charges last year, just 9 days before he was set to go on trial. They said they wanted to go to trial once they found Suzanne's body.
Last Friday, they finally did, near the town of Moffett, about 45 minutes south of the Morphew's home. 9 News reporter Jennifer Meckles is in Salida tonight. And Jenny, investigators have not made any new arrests following today's news.
Nope, nothing that we know of at this time, Alex. This case had, for most people, pretty much gone cold. It had been 3 years since anything happened. No current suspects in the case after those charges were dismissed. So it certainly came as a surprise today for folks both here in Salida and around the country who have been following for such a big break in the case. More than 3 years after Suzanne disappeared, many still held hope answers would eventually come.
Someone needs to keep her name out there until she was found, and now we will continue to do it until she gets full justice.
Tisha Leeway spent years getting to know Suzanne at the salon, small town connections. When Suzanne disappeared on Mother's Day 2020, Tisha helped plan search parties. Learning investigators finally found something comes as a relief.
I think it's great that they found, her remains, and now people can finally, I guess, get a sense of relief that now we can move forward as far as being able to find the justice that she deserves now.
The Colorado Bureau of Investigation won't say the exact location where they found Suzanne's remains last Friday, only that it is near Moffett. You're looking at an aerial view of that part of Saguache County. Investigators were on site for a different case when they came across Suzanne's remains, positively identified on Wednesday by the El Paso County coroner.
The FBI, the CBI, the sheriff's department has always, the sheriff especially department has always said, we need her body to finish this case out. So, my thing is you've got her body, let's finish this case.
A huge discovery in this case. Friends hope will finally lead to some answers.
First of all, who did it? Obviously, the obvious answer that everybody wants to know. Why? Why did this happen to someone like her? It shouldn't happen to anybody, but someone, as genuine as her, like, why? But I guess, just the biggest question is who did this? And let's bring them to justice and put them, where they need to be.
Our team reached out to several members of Suzanne's family today. We were unable to connect with any of them. We also don't know if investigators have spoken to her husband, Barry Morphew. Our team reached out to his attorney today, but when we spoke with her, all this information about finding the remains was actually news to her at that point. That was mid-afternoon, guys.
And you mentioned the husband. We remember very clearly prosecutors saying that this was the missing piece. They needed her body in order to file charges again against him. And I think a lot of people were wondering tonight, will that happen again, and potentially how quickly?
Yeah, that was one of the first questions this friend said to me today is, okay, we have this piece, now what happens next, and does it include him?
All right, lots more to come on this for sure. Jenny, thank you.
So at this point, investigators aren't talking. Not the CBI, not the sheriff's office, not the Chaffee County DA, who filed the original charges against Barry Morphew. 9 News reporter Mark Salinger walks us through the months of searching and that aborted murder trial.
It's been more than 3 years since Suzanne Morphew was last seen. 3 years since the day law enforcement believed she was killed. Investigators say this is the final picture Suzanne took on the afternoon of May 9th, 2020. It's the last piece of evidence that shows her alive. She sent the picture to a man in Michigan she was having an affair with. Suzanne was reported missing the following afternoon. The first deputies to arrive at the Morphew home found her mountain bike nearby in the woods off the road.
Can you try to call the husband and see what type of bike she has?
My daughter. She's at Barry's house.
Okay. All right, yeah.
Her husband, Barry, arrived home that evening after he says he was on a work trip in Broomfield. He immediately asks if an animal could have killed her.
Lion?
Yeah, it was just like
Was that no lion? Mountain lion?
For months, state and federal investigators searched for Suzanne and any clues that might lead to answers. On May 13th, 2020, her bike helmet was found near the road. On May 22nd of that year, The FBI searched through a construction site in Salida that Barry had been working on.
I believe the house is just below us right now.
In September of 2020, Suzanne's brother Andy couldn't stand by and watch any longer. He organized a team of dozens of volunteers from around the country to search for Suzanne. Each search turned up few results.
Please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back.
It wasn't until May 5th, 2021, nearly a year after Suzanne went missing, that Barry was arrested.
And I wouldn't bring charges unless I was confident.
District Attorney Linda Stanley charged Barry with murder in the disappearance of his missing wife. She didn't reveal what evidence she had, but promised the public there was enough to convict him.
And it's about all the individuals that knew her and loved her and cared about her.
After a year of preliminary hearings and pretrial court appearances, prosecutors dropped the charges against Barry, saying they don't have a case without the testimony of the expert witnesses the judge ruled to exclude from trial.
That's what innocence looks like right there.
How do you feel, Barry?
Barry Morphew's attorneys just got us a statement while that story was airing. They told us, quote, Barry is with his daughters, and they were all struggling with immense shock and grief. They had faith that their wife and mom would walk back into their lives again. Morphew's defense team says that law enforcement did not notify the Morphew children that their mother's body had been found. They insist that Barry Morphew is innocent. He could be charged again since prosecutors dropped his previous charges before the trial started.
If additional evidence points at Barry Morphew, the prosecution's not really going to have any problem at all refiling the charges. The case was dismissed without prejudice. On the other hand, if someone else is implicated, all of the evidence that seemingly pointed at Barry Morphew is going to be used by the defense. It all depends on who, if anyone, the district attorney charges in this homicide case.
The DA handling this case is facing an investigation of her own. A state counsel is looking into allegations of misconduct against DA Linda Stanley after a complaint by Barry Morphew's lawyers. Back in April, his attorneys asked the Colorado Supreme Court's Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel to investigate allegations of unethical behavior. That group has the power to discipline attorneys across the state. That same counsel has censured Stanley for misconduct in a previous case. Barry Morphew is also suing the DA along with the state and federal investigators over his arrest.